Professor Wang, thanks so much for being on the faculty interview series. To start, could you introduce yourself?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for inviting me. My name is Lihua Wang. I'm a professor of international business at Lam Family College of Business. I grew up in China. I got my undergraduate degree in international economics. And Nankai University is one of the universities in a city called Tianjin, very close to Beijing. Then I went to Hong Kong for my master's degree. I got an MBA from Chinese University of Hong Kong. Concentration was international business. Then I came to U.S. to get my Ph.D. degree at Kellogg School of Management, Northwestern University. I worked at Columbia Business School for 2 years. After I graduated, then I moved to the Bay Area, and I found a position at the San Francisco State University, and I have been here ever since. I think this year is my 18th year.
Oh, congratulations.
Yes.
Well, to start, could you define what a social enterprise is? What distinguishes it from a traditional for-profit company or a standard nonprofit?
Yes, the social enterprises are loosely defined as hybrid organizations that trying to solve the social problems with the innovative business solutions. So they have the social characteristics of nonprofit organizations. They also have the economic characteristics of for-profit organizations. So you can think of, on one side, you have a nonprofit organization, pure type of nonprofit organization. They get the funds from charity, they get funds from donations and also grants, but they don't charge their service. And then on the other hand, you have a pure form of business corporations. Their goal is to maximize shareholder value, to make profit. That's the most important thing. So in the middle, anywhere in the middle, you can call those organizations social enterprise. I know it's a little bit murky definition, but that's what it is. In reality, it's a little bit fuzzy.
Yeah, I'd love to begin exploring this area of social enterprises by maybe starting with the motivations of, say, founders of social enterprises. What typically distinguishes the motivation of a founder of a social enterprise versus a regular corporation that's mandate is to maximize shareholder value?
So for the founders, oftentimes they have certain personal values. So for social enterprises, founders' personal value is to solve some kind of social problems. When they founded this social enterprise, their goal is to solve the social problems. The business part of it is just the means to the end. So they need to make money, they need to generate benefits, and they need to have a competitive product or services to advance their social mission. For-profit organization, they may solve social problems because every for-profit organization is solving some customer's pain point. So they are solving some problems. That doesn't have to be a social problem. That's why for-profit organization, when they found a company, the first step is they trying to figure out how they can get the customers to buy their products. They try to design the product as good as possible so more customers will buy it. For social enterprises, when they found it, their first step is actually to rally all the stakeholders and trying to go to different stakeholders, say, we're going to do this. This is the problem we're going to solve. We need to get your support. They go to potential customers, and trying to make them accept their value. Or even internalize their social value with the certain customers. And then they go to suppliers, they do the same thing. They go to investors, governments. So they go around trying to sell their social mission first.
Yeah, well, you clearly outlined just how central this idea of having a mission is in nonprofit. As far as how you can balance priority of the mission with financial sustainability, what tend to be the biggest challenges that arise for people in that field?
Well, it's a huge challenge. It's probably one of the biggest challenges for social enterprises because, people understand you need to make money and you need to have financial goals, right? But people don't understand, or people also understand, you have a social problem, you set up a nonprofit, you are going to help people. But people don't understand how can you do both at the same time and actually balance both. So social enterprises is a new form of organization. It's not that established in terms of public acceptance, in terms of government regulations. I have a friend from Shanghai who has a very successful entrepreneur, has about 80 registered companies under his business group. So every time he comes here, we will have lunch together. He would ask me, what are you doing recently? I say, I'm doing research on social enterprises and it's cool and everything. He will be really puzzled. He said, I just don't understand this thing called social enterprises because if you want to make money, how you can solve the social problems and same time, oftentimes they're in conflict with each other. So I give you 2 examples. One example is Lush. Do you know Lush?
Yeah, cosmetic brand?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, they have very strong social mission, like no animal test and diversity, inclusion, sustainability. They have very strong mission. So we can call it somewhat like a social enterprise. They are registered as a for-profit organization. So just like a company, but they have very, very strong social mission. In 2019, they pull out all social media. I don't know, if you don't use the product, you probably don't know this. Girls, a lot of teenager girls like their product, and their most famous one is the bath bombs. I don't know whether you can get from the gift, or Stonestown has a store there. So in 2019, they pull out of Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, even though their targeted customers are very active on those platforms. The reason they do it is because the research shows these social media platforms are very bad for teenagers. They spend too much time on it and it's very bad for their attention span and all those things.
Yeah.
So a lot of research are saying that. So they just say we're no longer using this just because these platforms are bad for teenagers, for people.
Yeah.
But teenagers are one of their most important targeted customers. This is they know that if they pull out, it can potentially hurt their profitability. But they did it.
Yeah.
Because they have such a strong social mission. This is important. So in terms of balance, you can see that if you do one, you could hurt the other one. And for them, social mission is more important. They have to find other innovative solutions to market their products elsewhere. So that's one thing why social enterprises is innovative, because it's not easy to balance these two.
Yeah, I love the Lush example. When I think about social enterprises as a field, the major case study that comes to mind is OpenAI.
Yeah.
They were originally founded, with a plethora of longtime Silicon Valley founders, be it Elon Musk, Reid Hoffman, Sam Altman. And their original mission was to have a AI research lab that would open source all of their research and models.
Yeah.
And over time, Sam's perspective was that if they went for a more for-profit closed model, it'd be more beneficial for humanity, given that a lot of the powerful technology would be better handled, but investors like Elon didn't really agree. If we kind of double click on that case study, what can the OpenAI sort of situation teach us about the challenges and dynamics of social enterprises?
That's a really good case, because last year when it came out, it was just about time I was going to give a presentation to audience and researchers. at our research, innovation, and entrepreneurship initiative. We had a conference every year. So that OpenAI story just came out last year around that time. So I used that to as an opening like line for my social enterprise presentation, because it illustrates very well this tough balance between social mission and economic mission. Because we know OpenAI has a nonprofit parent company, but itself is a for-profit. You have like powerful investors like Microsoft. So they have to make money, be very competitive, because there are other competitors in the marketplace. You have Google, Meta, and Microsoft themselves, all developing competitive products. It's sort of like ChatGPT, but their own version. And there are zillions of startups are doing the same thing. If you are consumers, if ChatGPT is not the best product in the market, even though they have a very strong social mission, are you going to use it? Maybe for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But you have your work to be done. You want the best AI tools you can find to do your work. So just purely say, oh, social mission, it doesn't fly because there are other competitors. But at the same time, because ChatGPT came out, even the founders didn't know it will advance so fast, right? They got scared, like, oh, there's issues, ethics, and it could do bad things. It has bias, hallucinations, all those problems. So they want to slow down the development and just trying to make sure it's right. But the competitors are not doing that.
Yeah.
And if you don't commercialize the product as fast as possible to get the funds to advance your R&D, to come up with the best products, continuously, then you may lose the market share and customers are not buying or using your product, then you cannot advance your social mission. It's just pure and simple. That's why Sam Altman were outed, but not for long. They brought him back because they have to actually balance these two missions. They cannot just deal with the social mission, but they cannot just deal with the by the way, a lot of people will have a term. In social enterprises world, there's a term called a mission drift. So it's talking about those companies who forget about their social mission and worry too much about their profitability. It happens sometimes. It's also because the challenge is there. You cannot always balance it.
Yeah, and I'd imagine mission drift can occur in various ways, be it in a sort of stable industry where much of the drift from mission can be attributed to, say, change in management or a change of an employee base or employee morale. But in the case of OpenAI, it seems like much of what influenced the drift in sort of mission orientation had to do with how the founders and investors were interpreting the mission statement itself. It seemed like Sam really believed that in order for OpenAI to carry out their mission, they had to get more capital. They had to be little bit more closed. And other investors might have said, wait, no, I wanted the original interpretation of the mission to be the one that persisted. In what ways?
To see who prevailed.
Yeah. And in what ways do you think these kinds of disputes are better navigated by social enterprises? Say the Lush example, right? That seems to be a company that's pretty stable in their mission.
Yeah.
What might a company like Lush do well in managing sort of the evolution and interpretation and evolution of the mission versus other companies, say like OpenAI, where there was real turmoil that did result in a very consequential shift in how the company operated?
So there are several ways. The successful social enterprises have several features. One is they build that social mission into the core of the business model. So everything they do in business practice reflect their social mission. Lush is one example in terms of sourcing, production, recycling, packaging, all reflect their social mission, and marketing, all those. That's one way you can get it to be very successful. Patagonia is another example. We all love Patagonia here in Bay Area. Everybody has something, Patagonia. So they are very successful because these social enterprises use their social mission as a major branding and marketing tool. And those companies can be very successful. And of course, you have to have a competitive product and product and services. You cannot have an inferior product and say, we are doing good, therefore you have to buy our product. And customers don't buy that, not for long.
Yeah.
So they have to do that. There are other companies, they build some kind of mechanisms in their structure to make sure these two types of missions are balanced. One example is like Ben & Jerry ice cream. We all know Ben & Jerry. It's a for-profit firm, got acquired by Unilever. It's still for-profit, but they have very strong social mission. Arguably, they are social enterprise. Even though they're not certified as a social enterprise by B Lab. B is a benefit. There's a major certification company, nonprofit, I would say, nonprofit organization, B Lab, certifying these companies as like a benefit corporations, B Corp. Even though they are not certified, but they have one thing they did that is really good practice is they have an independent board called the Social Mission Board, in addition to the regular board of director. Regular board of director, they worried about profit and the shareholder values, right? Yeah. So Ben & Jerry has a separate board. It's called Social Mission Board. And this board's task is to try to make sure that the company is attending to the stakeholder value and social issues.
Yeah. Now, looking ahead, what evolution do you anticipate to occur as far as the role of social enterprises and maybe their importance in our economy?
I think it will have an increasingly important roles in the future. For one thing, consumers, us, we're increasingly aware of social environmental issues. We're demanding the companies to be more socially responsible. That's a huge force because companies listen to customers. They're the one who provide profit for the companies. That's one big force. Another big force is the government. More and more government are setting up the regulations and rules to support social enterprises. I just mentioned about B Corp is a certification. It's different. And United States and Europe actually have laws now it's related to social enterprises. And there are about 30 to 40 countries have that kind of laws or certification. And in the U.S., for example, the law was enacted in Maryland in 2012-ish, 2010. Somewhere around there. It's not. You can see it's very new. So now about 40 states have it. So the companies can register as a public benefit corporations. Anybody, nonprofit or for-profit, if you go to them, you say, you can register as a public, especially for-profit organizations. They register as a public benefit corporation. Of course, they have to change the charter, include some social causes, set some standard for themselves. They have to report their social impact. It's legally required. So the regulation is starting to build up, and the certification, I mentioned the B Lab, certified companies coming to them, applying for this B Corp status. So they have their whole set of a very strict standard, social environmental standard. The companies, just like any certification, companies submit the report, they come in to audit it, and every standard has to be met, then they give you a certification. So the companies are encouraged to do that. Doing that, being a B Corp actually signal to the whole business world and social world to the public that you care about social causes and you're trying to solve social problems. So this kind of infrastructure is built in, like regulations and certifications. There are also growing number of impact investors, and it become a whole big community. We have a big community in the Bay Area too, called impact investors. They are looking for this kind of social enterprises to support financially, to invest. So all these, I think, will play an important role for social enterprises to thrive in the future. Of course, my dream is every company will be taking care of all the stakeholders, including like environmental issues, social issues. Every company should be socially responsible. We are not there yet. But I'm hopeful that with all these whole infrastructure and consumers and governments and investors, this whole thing build up, more and more social enterprises will be thriving. Yeah.